I think that it's safe to say we're all pretty familiar with what fast fashion is. But over recent years, the term ultra fast fashion has gained more and more popularity throughout our digital ecosystem. And because the fashion industry is so incredibly nuanced, I do think it's really important for us to understand the amplified dangers of ultra fast fashion and ultimately just help us make better informed, more mindful choices when it comes to our clothing consumption. And frankly, it's something that I also wanted to better understand myself. So today I'm going to be sharing with you what ultra fast fashion is, how it differs from traditional fast fashion, and of course, how it affects our wardrobes and our clothing choices. As always, all of the information that I'm talking about in this video is formed from my own research as well as my own opinions. All of my sources will be linked in the description, and if you have your own thoughts or own opinions on this subject, feel free to leave a kind comment below and we can talk about it. If you want to see more videos on how to be a more mindful consumer and just to better understand what's happening in the fashion industry, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. And let's just get right into it. First, I want to talk about what is ultra fast fashion and how the heck did it get so popular? So ultra fast fashion is just fast fashion on steroids. So these are brands that are taking already harmful industry practices and then pushing them to a whole different level. So we're talking about things like the speed of production. We're talking about the rights of garment workers or lack thereof. We're talking about the impact on the environment. These are all things that have become extremely heightened in a negative way when it comes to ultra fast fashion. And one of the biggest reasons why ultra fast fashion brands are really, I hate to say it, but they're thriving right now in terms of business and profits and everything is because of micro trends. So we're talking about trends that are appearing within our social ecosystem, our digital ecosystem, even real life, and then disappearing as quickly as they arrived. And one of the biggest problems between ultra fast fashion and their consumers is that people are willing to gamble on their clothes. They're willing to participate in buying really low quality clothing because the cost is so low that they feel like they have nothing to lose. If something is going to fall apart after a few wears, it's easier to justify buying more because the cost is so low. So when it comes to specific brands, we're talking Shein, we're talking Temu, Boohoo, Fashion Nova, Cider is another good example. These are the brands that are really leading ultra fast fashion right now. And something that I find particularly concerning is that these companies aren't just selling clothes anymore. Like if they started at one point as a clothing company, they have moved into so many other categories now, which is just spreading this disposable mindset across every single aspect of our lives. Shein is easily the biggest player in this space. They made over $30 billion in revenue in 2023. So we're probably going to be talking about Shein a lot in this video, but just know that their practices are also applying to all of these other brands as well. So how has ultra fast fashion become so popular? Like how did it even become this thing within our world? And it's pretty obvious what the answer is: social media. TikTok has especially made shopping hauls particularly popular. So things like, Shein haul. I spent $100 at Shein. Here's what I got. Here's my Amazon haul for the week or whatever. And more people are now shopping for the algorithm's approval rather than shopping for clothes that are actually going to last long in their wardrobe and actually serve them. And this obsession specifically with ultra fast fashion brands actually skyrocketed during the pandemic. So even when people had nowhere to wear their new clothes, online shopping sales just completely soared. And just to give you some numbers behind that, Shein doubled its sales in 2020 to $10 billion, which just proves that the desire to shop never actually stopped during the pandemic. So there's some scary information for you. Sorry to bring down the mood, sorry to bring down the vibes, but I do feel like if you are on the path to becoming a more mindful, more sustainable, just a smarter shopper in general, I believe that knowledge is power, and knowing these things will help you make better decisions in the future. So with that, let's talk about the difference between fast fashion and ultra fast fashion. Both fast fashion and ultra fast fashion have their fair share of destructive issues. But like I mentioned before, ultra fast fashion is just taking everything to a completely new level. So fast fashion brands like H&M and Zara already move at a fast pace. They're generally taking a couple weeks or maybe a month or two to create new products and get them in store and get them online. But ultra fast fashion brands are running laps around them. Companies like Shein can take an item from design to production in as little as 10 days. I used to work for a pretty small fashion brand in the beginning of my career, and I was very involved with every single step of the process when it comes to designing and producing the product. And it typically took around a year. So just to put that into perspective, like a year to come up with the product, design the product, get samples made, put it into production, get it out to the wholesalers, put it up online. Like that generally took about a year. And every single step that was taken when I was working at this company had thought and care put behind it, which then eventually showed within the quality of the item. So in contrast, ultra fast fashion brands are prioritizing speed above all else. And they're also prioritizing volume of product over craftsmanship, which is just leading to this endless cycle of disposable and low quality clothes. Okay, so I want to give you some numbers that are actually going to put this into perspective for you. From November 2022 to November 2023, H&M produced 23,000 new SKUs and Zara produced 40,000 new SKUs. And Shein produced around 1.5 million new SKUs. And just to be clear, this is not the number of products that they sold or products that they produced. That's the number of individual designs. So this hyper accelerated production process is allowing ultra fast fashion brands to churn out new items daily. And this is flooding the market, it's flooding social media, it's flooding our closets, and it's flooding landfills with really cheap, really low quality, disposable clothes that aren't biodegradable and that aren't meant to last within our wardrobes. So with that, I want to talk about the environmental and social consequences of ultra fast fashion. So it's probably obvious at this point that there is no transparency from these brands. I personally believe that if companies are actually doing the right thing, if they are actually implementing the right practices, they wouldn't hesitate to share it. But that is obviously not the case when it comes to both fast fashion and ultra fast fashion brands. I know that this video is definitely focusing on ultra fast fashion, but just know that the practices apply to both. So when we're looking at the environmental side, the numbers are quite alarming, honestly. Each year, 92 million tons of clothing end up in landfills, and 85% of textiles go to landfills each year. These figures are largely driven by throwaway culture, which is heavily pushed by ultra fast fashion brands. And what makes this even worse is that many of the products from these brands are made with synthetic materials like polyester and other plastic materials that cannot biodegrade, or at least it takes them forever to biodegrade, like will not happen in our lifetime. And these types of fabrics also contain microplastics, which when we wash them, when they do break down in landfills, they are going into our water sources and our oceans, and even in the food we eat. Like if you're eating seafood and microplastics are going into the ocean, you know, do the math. The waste that is coming from these brands is truly incomprehensible. And with that, it's also important to note that Shein's carbon emissions have tripled over the last 3 years, which is just outrageous. Like all the work that other brands are trying to do, all the work that us as consumers are trying to do is being taken away from these greedy ultra fast fashion brands. So those are some environmental facts. I'm just scratching the surface, obviously, but I also want to talk about some social issues within ultra fast fashion and kind of just the fashion industry as a whole. Labor issues and the rights of garment workers are another huge and honestly really scary part of ultra fast fashion. Brands like Shein refuse to disclose their suppliers, which make it difficult for anybody to verify the working conditions of the workers. However, there have been investigations done, of course, and something interesting that these investigations showed is that garment workers are getting paid per item of clothing, which is just encouraging them to work at breakneck speed in order to make the ends meet of the supplier and obviously their own personal needs. There are some reports that suggest employees are working up to 75 hours a week, they're only getting 1 day off a month, and they're earning far below a living wage. Now, again, this is all just scratching the surface of these issues. Like, there are so many other harmful things that ultra fast fashion brands are doing. We could get really into it, but we'd be here for days. But the thing that sucks the most about what we're discussing is that these brands don't care about slowing down, and they don't care about changing their ways or changing these practices because all they want is money. The focus on producing more and more goods with little regard to people and the planet and how it's affecting everybody is a true reflection of pure greed. So now I want to talk about the psychological effect of ultra fast fashion and how it's really ruining and taking a toll on our wardrobes. Now, as always, as a disclaimer, I am not a licensed mental health professional. I'm just somebody who thinks that style goes way beyond just what we wear, and I want to talk about it with you. So if we're going to talk about psychological effects in fashion, we obviously need to talk about marketing. And ultra fast fashion brands' marketing thrives on urgency. And I think one of the most important things to know about ultra fast fashion brands and just fashion brands as a whole, whether it's fast fashion or basically anything else, is how they are gamifying shopping. So this is a cycle of things like flash sales and limited time deals, and of course, a never-ending selection. So you're constantly looking for the cutest thing at the cheapest price. I recently did a video on how social media is sabotaging our style, and in that video I talk about our attention span and how it's shortened so much over the past 2 decades, and ultimately how that translates into our clothing attention span. The more we buy, the faster we get bored, the more we consume, and it's just this vicious cycle on and on again, and we never feel truly satisfied with our wardrobe, with the quality of our wardrobe. Now, with all of these things in mind about how ultra fast fashion brands are truly brainwashing us, there is one more thing that just remains evidently true. And it's that ultra fast fashion brands don't care about you. They don't care about any of their consumers outside of their wallets. Ultra fast fashion brands have learned to tap into our psyche and ultimately have made us feel like we're irrelevant if we don't have the latest and greatest item. They are making money off of you not knowing what your personal style is. They are making money off of you not having a good relationship with your wardrobe, with you not being confident in your style, and it really sucks and it's really sad. They want you to feel confused and they want you to be out of touch with your wardrobe so that you are constantly buying these little hits of dopamine that you're wearing a handful of times until the next best thing comes along. You know, until you get bored with it and you got to go find a new thing. So instead of learning about our own personal style and learning how our wardrobes are there to serve us, investing in pieces that are actually going to be with us in the long term, we end up buying these trendy disposable items that are truly helping nobody but those corporations themselves. Now, what exactly are you supposed to do about this? What are you supposed to do with all of this information that I just gave you? So there's a few things to keep in mind if maybe you are somebody who's kind of addicted to that cycle of ultra fast fashion brands, or maybe you know somebody who's addicted to it and kind of want to help them get out of it, or whatever the case may be. One of the most impactful steps that you can take is to buy less and buy better. So instead of giving into the constant pressure of feeling like you have to keep up to date with every single trend, focus on investing in quality pieces that are versatile, that are durable, and that ultimately align with your personal style, which is another huge thing, getting to know your personal style. I think that it would probably be especially hard for somebody who's very sucked into this vacuum of ultra fast fashion to understand what their personal style is, but it's not impossible. I used to be that person many moons ago, and now I feel very confident in my wardrobe. Obviously, I have my moments. There are things that I want to tweak sometimes, but I feel good. And I think something else to know is that it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's important to get to know your personal style and kind of build your wardrobe around these pieces that are really going to have a long lifespan, but it does take time, and I hope the videos on my channel can help you with that. Now, another important step to take is to curate your social media feed as you would your style. Social media can obviously be a major driver when it comes to things like impulse buying and sharing all these trendy items that you must have or whatever, especially if you are constantly following influencers that are promoting endless hauls and new products and all of that stuff. So take a critical look at the accounts you're following, take a look at the ones that are popping up the most, and ask yourself, are these people encouraging me to purchase things that I don't need? And unfollow them or mute them, preferably unfollow so they're no longer in your system at all. And instead you can look for creators and activists that focus on mindful consumption, people that are offering tips on how to re-wear what you already own, and ultimately just how to be a more sustainable shopper, consumer, person as a whole. And lastly, I want to encourage you to educate yourself and also engage others in this conversation. Stay informed about environmental and social issues that are happening within the fashion industry. You might think that your voice doesn't matter, but it does, because oftentimes change is happening once we open up the floor to these conversations. So by just spreading more awareness about the harmful effects of ultra fast fashion brands and just overconsumption as a whole, we can reduce the demand for these ultra fast fashion brands and encourage more mindful shopping. All right, you guys, that is the end of the video. If you stuck around for this long, I really appreciate it. I hope you were able to learn something. Again, if you have any thoughts or opinions or comments, leave them down below. I would love to chat with you. I've also really enjoyed doing these more opinion type pieces. I think they're really fun for me to research and learn more and then pass that information along to you guys. So if you want to see anything else like this, let me know in the comments down below if you have an idea or a specific subject you want me to talk about, and I can look into it. As always, thank you so much for watching. I am so appreciative of your support, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.